أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يوصينا معه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بهد الهمم ولا يناله غوث الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت محدود ولا أجل ممدود فترى الخلائق بقدرته ونشى الرياح برحمته ووتد بالسخر ميدان أرض ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعن على أعدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المبين وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإنك لعلى خلق العظيم صدق الله العلي العظيم. My dear brothers and sisters, before we get started with tonight's lecture, please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for the marhumin of the sponsors of tonight's lecture. Please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for the owners of Khan Sahab restaurant and Ali Mukki and Kumail Mukki. Please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for all of their marhumin. Bismillah. 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 Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yesterday we had started tafsir of Suratul Hujraat, and inshallah we'll finish this tafsir of Suratul Hujraat, and it should take us inshallah till Eid, the next 2-3 days that we have. Inshallah we'll do this because in tafsir in Suratul Hujraat we have so many moral principles, we have so many ethical principles that we can talk about just from this surah alone. And yesterday we started our dars of tafsir of this surah yesterday, and inshallah we'll continue it until the end. And one of the most important aspects of morals deals with the way that we speak to other people and the way that we interact with them. The way we speak to friends, the way we speak to parents, the way we speak to our bosses, the way we speak to our brothers and sisters is not the same. Meaning what? Meaning that the way we speak to our parents is not the same as the way we speak to our brothers and sisters. The way we speak to our brothers and sisters is not the same as the way we speak to our bosses. Which brings us to the second point in the tafsir of this chapter. Yesterday we had said that there were about 13 or 14 points that we can look at and we can analyze in the tafsir of Suratul Hujurat. And tonight let's look at the second point of this chapter, which was instructions on how to talk to people, how to talk to the Holy Prophet, how to talk to other people. Verses 2 to 5 of this chapter of the Suratul Hujurat do exactly that. They tell us how we should talk to other people. For example, in verse 2 of Suratul Hujurat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what? He says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu la tarfa'u aswatakum fawqa sawti an-nabi ولا تجهروا له بالقول كجهر بعضكم لبعض أن تحبط أعمالكم وأنتم لا تشعرون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that, O you who believe, do not raise your voices above the voice of the Holy Prophet, and do not speak loud to him as you speak to each other, unless if you do this, what will happen? Lest your deeds become void while you do not know, while you're not aware of what has happened. And when we look into the books of tafsir, we see that verses 2 and 3 were revealed after a certain incident between two of the Holy Prophet's companions. And we have been saying from the beginning of Ramadan that all of these verses of the Quran, they were revealed either regarding some incident that happened or regarding an incident that will happen. And this is just how these verses of the Quran, or every verse of the Quran has a shan and nuzul, or a reason for the revelation of the verses. And what was the reason for the revelation of these verses? And when you look into the books of tafsir, the reason is that there were two companions of the Holy Prophet that were bickering, that were arguing amongst each other in front of the Holy Prophet. And they said that one day delegates from the tribe of Banu Tamim were coming to Medina. Abu Bakr and Umar, they both select someone separately to go and bring them into the city. Abu Bakr, he selects someone to go bring the tribe of Banu Tamim into the city. Umar, he selects someone else to go bring that tribe. What happened was a difference arose between the two as who should be sent. Meaning Abu Bakr and Umar, they started bickering, they started arguing with each other about who should be sent. Abu Bakr was saying that no, the person he chose should be sent. Umar was saying no, the person he chose should be sent. And all of a sudden they started yelling and shouting at each other in the presence of the Holy Prophet, which upset the Holy Prophet quite a bit. In order that something like this never happens again in front of the Holy Prophet, verses 2 and 3 of this surah were revealed. Verse 2, which is I just recited, O you who believe, do not raise your voices above the voice of the Prophet. Verse 2 forbids yelling or raising your voice above the voice of the Holy Prophet, and tells us of its consequences if we were to do this. And verse 3, it tells us the rewards for lowering your voices in front of the Holy Prophet. Verse 2, it states that yelling in the presence of the Holy Prophet will nullify all of the good deeds that you have done. So the question arises as to why the punishment is so severe. The reason the punishment is so severe is because the honor and respect that is physically manifested, and even the way is physically manifested, is even in the way that we speak in front of the Holy Prophet. The way we speak in front of the Holy Prophet is an indication of how much love and respect someone has deep inside their soul for the Prophet. So the more that you love the Prophet, the more that you honor him, the more you will be aware of him, and the gentler you will talk in front of him. In contrast, the less honor and respect you have for him, the more roughly you will speak in his presence. Well, you might be thinking, well, brother, how does this apply to us today? If this verse has to do with how one speaks in front of the Holy Prophet, well, the Holy Prophet, he's not here. This verse, it talks about how we should act in front of the Holy Prophet. And seeing as the Prophet isn't here anymore, it doesn't apply to us. Many people might be thinking this, because the verse literally, in the literal context, it says, it's telling us how we should speak in front of the Holy Prophet. The Holy Prophet. First and foremost, the scholars of morals and the scholars of ethics, they say that this verse doesn't only apply to the Holy Prophet. No, but it also applies to the Imams, it also applies to scholars, it also applies to parents, it also applies to teachers. It's not just the Prophet that deserves respect, but anyone that the Prophet or the Imams have commanded to respect, they also deserve the same type of respect. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the parents in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ لَا تَعْبُدُ إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that your Lord has commanded, your Lord has decreed that you worship none but Him, and that you be kind to your parents. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it wajib that we be kind to our parents. So when He's decreed kindness along with His worship, why is it that nowadays people do the first, where they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they're not kind to parents? These days people do the first part of this verse and forget the second part. The first part, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ لَا تَعْبُدُ إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ, meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your Lord, He's decreed, He's told you that none should be worshipped except for Him. There are people that worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first part of the verse. But then the second part, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, Not only has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made wajib worship of His oneness, but He's also said what? وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And with that worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is expected or He's commanded you to do ihsan to your parents. So what do a lot of people do today? Yes, they might pray 5 times a day. They might recite the Quran. They might finish the Quran once a month, if not once a month, once a year at the very least. They'll worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then the second part of this verse, a lot of them, they forget. And I've already done lectures on what the consequences are of being disobedient to parents, and I don't really want to talk about that in this lecture itself. But brothers and sisters, for right now, all you should know is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for something, and if we don't carry it out, what do we become? We become those sinners. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said something is wajib, and we don't do it, then we've become sinners. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to do something, not obeying that command makes us sinners. But if we don't even believe in that command, that makes us apostates, that makes us ghafir. So what is the reason that we don't carry out that command? Is it because we don't believe in that command? That we don't have to be kind to parents? If that's the reason, then we're not believing the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if someone doesn't believe the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they've become apostates. They've turned kafir. But no, if they believe in the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they just choose not to, no, they're not apostates, they're not kafir, they're what? They're sinners. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's commanded you to pray. That's a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you don't believe in that command, then you've become apostate, you've become a kafir. No, if you believe in the command that you should pray, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded you to pray, but you choose not to pray because you're lazy, because you forget, or because you don't have time, whatever the case is, that's a different story. That just makes you a sinner. But these verses, you have to realize that these verses, brothers and sisters, aren't just for that time period 1400 years ago. These verses are for every time. The Quran wasn't only for 1400 years ago. The Quran came for every time period. But in relation to the Shan and Nazul, the reason for the revelation of these verses, it's a known fact that Umar ibn Khattab, he was a factor in the reason for this verse's revelation. These verses, they were revealed long before the Prophet was about to pass away. Long before. So when the Prophet was about to pass away, and Umar, he starts shouting and he starts a commotion in the Prophet's house by raising his voice, what happened to his deeds? Did he forget that this verse was revealed in his honor? Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemns them, saying that do not raise your voice in the presence of the Prophet. Now the Prophet, he's on his deathbed, and he started another commotion. And what does he say? The Quran is enough. The Quran is enough for us. Well, if the Quran is truly enough, then let's refer to the Quran. What does the Quran say? The Quran itself, it says, "O you believe, do not raise your voice above the voice of the Prophet, and do not speak loud to him as you speak loud to each other, lest your deeds become void while you do not know." When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you raise your voice in front of the Prophet, your deeds will have become void, and you will not know. It must be noted that this type of respect isn't only required of people while the Prophet is alive, but is also required even when he's not physically here. Again, just as people showed disrespect towards him while he was alive, they also showed disrespect after he left this world. Even today, the type of disrespect that you'll see, well, today, because of who has control over the haram of the Holy Prophet, people aren't even allowed to go and kiss the zari, or they're not even allowed to go and supplicate in front of the Holy Prophet's tomb. But Ayatollah Jafar Subhani, he narrates an incident in his tafsir that Imam Hassan alayhi salam, after he had gotten Shaheed Imam Hussein, he carried him to be buried next to his grandfather. After Imam Hassan alayhi salam was Shaheed Imam Hussein, and the Banu Hashim, they were carrying Imam Hassan alayhi salam to be buried next to Rasulullah. And what happens, and this is in history, Aisha, she starts a commotion, she starts screaming and yelling and calling others to help her while they're near the Holy Prophet's grave. She starts a commotion just so Imam Hassan alayhi salam would be prevented from being buried there. What is she doing? Raising her voice in the presence of the Holy Prophet. In the presence of the Holy Prophet. At this, Imam Hussein, Imam Hassan, he had already told Imam Hussein, oh brother, if a commotion arises, if someone stirs up trouble, do not start anything with them. Just leave them alone and take me back and bury me next to my mother. When this commotion started, Imam Hussein, what did he do? If you look at the books of history, he recited that same verse. Oh, you who believe, do not raise your voices above the voice of the Holy Prophet. He recites that same exact verse to quiet her down. And what does he also say? He says that Allah has forbidden the believers to act in relation to the deceased in any way prohibited during his lifetime. That's a narration from the Holy Prophet. He reminded them. Imam Hussein leaves without causing a scene or raising his voice. Why? Because it was for people like Imam Ali, it was for people like Imam Hussein, for people like Salman Farsi and Abu Zar Ghafari, that verse 3 was revealed. What does verse 3 say? It says, surely those who lower their voices in the presence of the Prophet, their hearts have been tested for piety. For them is forgiveness and a great reward. For them is a great reward. For them is forgiveness. Imam Hussein was one of those whose heart had been tested for piety. This verse tells us the compensation for lowering the voice in front of the Holy Prophet, which is forgiveness and a sign of great reward. And like I said before, brothers and sisters, this lowering of voice, the way you speak this verse, the scholars of ethics, the scholars of morals, they say, look, this verse doesn't just apply to the Holy Prophet. No. If you look at the narration leading inside the verse of the Quran, but the narration from Imam Hussein, he says what? Allah has forbidden the believers to act in relation to the deceased in any way prohibited during their lifetime, during his lifetime. Meaning what? Meaning if it was prohibited for you to speak loudly during the lifetime of the Holy Prophet, even after he's left this world, it's prohibited for you to speak loudly in front of him, even after he's left this world. The same way, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered you to be kind to your parents while they're still alive, that order still stays after they pass away. After they pass away. If Islam has told you to act a certain way with certain people, even after they pass away, you need to act that same way. The respect that you had for them while they were alive, you should act with, and you should give them that same amount of respect after they pass away. For example, with parents, and I've already talked about this, the kindness that you do to your parents while they're alive doesn't mean that after they pass away, you know, the doors of kindness or the doors of kindness to being kind to your parents have closed now. No. You can still be kind to your parents even after they pass away. How? Making up all of their qaza fast, making up their qaza prayers, praying 2 rakat and sending the sawab for that prayer to your parents. That's still being kind to them. And this is what Islam truly wants. But verse 3 of Suratul Hujurat, what does it say? It says that forgiveness is for those people And a great reward is for those people who lower their voices in the presence of the Holy Prophet. If forgiveness is for the ones that lower their voices, then the ones that raise their voices, what is left for them? What is left for them? Just as there were people who caused pain to the Holy Prophet by speaking loudly in front of him, there were others who would come to his door at odd times of the day wanting to talk to him. During the time of the Holy Prophet, some of the companions, they would speak loudly to him in front of him. But there were other people, and inshallah we'll get to it in a second. There were other people, they would knock on the door of the they would knock on the house of the Holy Prophet, or the door of the house of the Holy Prophet, and they would speak to him in a rude manner, but they wouldn't know it was a rude manner. Why? Because they speak to everyone else in that time period. They'd speak to everyone else in the same manner. The way they'd speak to everyone else, they'd speak to the Holy Prophet in that same tone, in that same manner. In that same manner. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not want. He did not want them to speak to His messenger the same way that they speak to each other. So, what would they do? They would come and they would knock on the Holy Prophet's door at odd times of the day to talk to him. And this was the reason for verses 4 and 5 being revealed. It is stated, the reason for these verses, that in the 9th year of Hijrah, there were various groups of delegations of tribes that lived around Medina, and they were coming to accept Islam as their religion. So when they came, they would stand in front of the Prophet's house and they say, Ya Muhammad, come out of your house. They knock on the door and say, Ya Muhammad, come out of your house. Just like that, the way that you speak to others. So not only did this disturb the Prophet's resting, but it was also a form of disrespect to the Holy Prophet. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reveals verses 4 and 5 of this surah. What do verses 4 and 5 say? Those that shout out to you from the inner chamber, most of them don't understand. 1. Verse 4, verse number 5, and if they wait patiently until you come out to them, it would certainly be better for them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forgiving and merciful. Because these people came to accept Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells them that their actions are wrong. But this time, He doesn't tell them the way He told His companions that their actions were wrong. No, He tells them in a passive tone by talking to the Prophet. Compare these verses to verse 2, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's directly talking to the believers, because they should have known better. They've been with the Prophet for so long now. But now in verses 4 and 5, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to these people that are coming to accept Islam in a passive tone. Why? First and foremost, it's that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't want them to turn away from His religion thinking that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is too strict. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is too strict. And second, is just what it says in the verse, that most of them don't understand. And it is because they don't understand, it is because they don't know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in verse 5 that He is forgiving and merciful. Because they don't know how to talk to the Prophet. They're just coming right now to accept Islam. They don't know how to interact with the Holy Prophet. They don't know that they need to behave with him differently, and they need to behave with the other people around them differently. The respect that they give to the Prophet, does that mean that the respect that you give to the Prophet you shouldn't give to others? No, the Prophet, he deserves the utmost respect. Utmost respect. You should give that to every other individual too. But if you don't give that personality or the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that respect that he deserves, then how are you going to give it to others? If you're constantly conscious of the fact that this personality is a representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a representative of that being that I worship, then you will naturally start giving them the respect. You'll naturally have that awe within yourself. you'll begin to realize what kind of a personality he is, or whose messenger he truly is. And once you start realizing that, then the respect that you have for him will be different than the respect that you have for others. Why? Because he's a messenger of that being that you are worshipping. He's a representative of that being that you are worshipping. Whereas your brothers, whereas your sisters, whereas your bosses, no. They also deserve respect, but he deserves more respect than them. And in these verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us how to behave with someone who does something offensive out of ignorance. These people, they didn't know how to behave. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us in verses 4 and 5. How to behave with someone who does something offensive out of ignorance. How many times have we acted contrary to this? When someone shows a bit of disrespect unintentionally, we direct, or we're ready to let them have it either physically or verbally. We'll curse them. It was unintentional on their behalf. We'll get mad really quickly. We'll start cursing every curse word we know, and that's the least. No, if we found it so rude, we might even come to blows. Even though that person, it wasn't intentional, it was unintentional. And there's a story for this too. Imam Zain al-Abidin, one day he was with his companions, and a man, he came to the Imam and he started cursing him. And this happened to Imam Hassan al-Islam. This happened to Imam Hussein, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein al-Islam. This happened to Imam Zain al-Abidin al-Islam. Why? Because in the time of these Imams, who were in power? The Banu Umayyah Lanatullah alayhim. They were in power. And the only thing that Muawiyah had started, or one of the things that Muawiyah had started against Amir al-Mu'mineen was what? He started spreading lies against Amir al-Mu'mineen. It came to a point where people were cursing Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam from the minbar. So people from Syria, when they would come and they would know, oh, this is the son of Ali alayhi salam, they start cursing. Why? Because all they had heard was Ali is like this, Ali is like that, Ali is like this. They hadn't heard who in reality Imam Ali alayhi salam was. No, they had only heard from the mouths of Banu Umayyah the lies that they spread. The same thing. People from Syria, they came to Imam Hassan alayhi salam and they started cursing Imam Ali alayhi salam. And Imam Hassan, he doesn't do anything. Imam Zain al-Abidin, this is a story about Imam Zain al-Abidin, where a person, he comes and he starts cursing at Imam Zain al-Abidin, and Imam, he just listens to him. He doesn't say anything. And when he doesn't say anything, Imam's companions, they couldn't take it. They were ready to beat this person up. And literally they were ready to basically kill him. Why? Because they're disrespecting the Imam. But what does the Imam do? He tells them to leave it alone. Imam, he tells them leave him alone and just let him go. This was the akhlaq of the Imams. This was the akhlaq of the Masumeen. We've all seen or heard of those mental midgets of society that get into fistfights because someone has cursed them. Or they'll get into fistfights because a rumor was spread that someone had said this about you. Fistfights. This was never the way of the infallibles. This was never the way of the Imams. This was never the akhlaq of the Masumeen. And there are no better people to look to for moral guidance than these personalities. And the head of them is the Holy Prophet himself. The moral character of all the Imams was the same as the Holy Prophet. It was the same. And it's written about the Holy Prophets morals and his character, it's written that when the Holy Prophet wished to speak to someone, he didn't look at him from the corner of his eye. No, he completely faced that person that he was speaking to. He turned his whole body to speak to that person. So that person knew that the Holy Prophet was giving them his full attention. Whereas today, what do? We might be speaking to someone on the right, but we're looking to the left. We might be speaking to someone on the right, but we're just looking at them from the corner of our eye. The first thing that the Holy Prophet did when he met someone was that he would always be the first to say salam. No one ever got a chance to say salam before the Holy Prophet. One day Salman Farsi, he wanted to say salam before the Holy Prophet could say it, so he hid behind the wall of the masjid. And before the Prophet he even went past that wall, he says, Assalamu alaikum ya Salman. Before he even went past that wall. And it wasn't a hey man, or what's up. No, it wasn't. It wasn't hey man Salman, what's up. No, or it wasn't hey bro Salman, what's up. No, it was Salam alaikum. And a lot of Muslims today, they're forgetting this. This is a sunnat of Holy Prophet. This itself has barakah in it. This itself, saying Salam alaikum, has barakah. One is you're keeping alive a sunnat of the Holy Prophet. What is the barakah? 70 rewards for the person who says salam. And then the reply to the salam is wajib. The one who initiates salam, they get more reward than the person who replies to the salam. Why? Because initiating wasn't wajib. But now, when someone has initiated salam, it's become wajib for you to reply. It's become wajib. And if you don't reply, you've committed a sin. But what do we do nowadays? Hey man, what's up? Hey bro, what's going on? And a fist bump. This isn't what the Holy Prophet taught. No. Assalamu alaikum, that's it. And what do we do today? If a person makes a error while speaking, what do? Start pointing and laughing. Oh look, he said this. What did the Holy Prophets do? What did the Holy Prophet do? What did the Masumin do? No. They never pointed out the fault in their speech. For example, if someone stutters today, if we see someone stuttering, what do? We start laughing, we start snickering, we start pointing at them. Oh look, this person, he stutters. The Prophets, the Imams, no, nothing like that. The Holy Prophet, he respected all classes of people he met, to the point where everyone that he sat with, they all would always think that they were the most honored person in the eyes of the Holy Prophet. It doesn't matter who he sat with. They would always think. Why? Because all of his attention was on them. And because all of his attention was on them, they would think that, oh, you know what? Look how honorable I am in the eyes of the Holy Prophet. That's the way they would think. Whereas today, what happens? We see that people talk to the rich in one manner and they talk to the poor in another manner. We'll see them talk to one race in one manner and another race in another manner. They'll act a certain way with the rich and they'll act a certain way with the poor. They'll act a certain way with one race, they'll act a certain way with another race. This is how people are interacting today. No one, in the Holy Prophet's eyes, no one was ever deprived of his good demeanor and etiquette. And whenever he talked to someone, he would always talk to them with a smile and a cheerful face. Whereas nowadays we talk to people in anger, even though the person we were talking to has done absolutely nothing wrong. We might be angry at someone else. Now you're talking to me, and you're talking to me in an angry tone. You're not angry at me. You're not angry at me, obviously, but you're talking to me in an angry tone. Why? Because someone else has angered you. No. And the Holy Prophet, he always tried to fulfill the request of anyone that came to him. And if he wasn't able to fulfill their needs, he would always put a smile on their face and send them away. He would always give them good counsel. He would tell them to be patient, and then he would send them away if he wasn't able to fulfill their needs. Whereas today, if someone comes for help, we either ignore their request and tell them to get lost, or we give them the generic inshallah, and we never do anything about it. We never do anything about it. The Holy Prophet, he was the most tolerant of bad etiquette from strangers and ignorant people. Whereas today, when someone displays bad manners, what do? We start cursing, we start laughing, we start saying, this person, he has no manners. We start ridiculing them. Even when these types of people, when these types of ignorant people came to the doorstep and told them to come out, no matter the time of day or night, the Prophet would come out just so these people feel happy and they accept Islam. Just for the sake of Islam. The Holy Prophet would do this. And these were the manners of the Holy Prophet. He respected the elders and cared for the young. And this is a major problem in any community today. Anyone that considers themselves to be a youth should know respecting your elders is the akhlaq of the Ahlul Bayt. Anyone that considers themselves to be a youth. One day you and I, we will also become old. So would we want to be treated with disrespect? No, of course not. Would you want to be treated with rudeness? No, of course not. Would you want to be dishonored? No, of course not. So why do it to the people that are elders now? When you don't want that to be done to you, why would you do it to someone else? What did the Holy Prophet do? The month of Ramadan, and inshallah I will do, if I have time, we'll do one lecture on ghibat, because this is a very important topic. Many people do it, they don't even know they're doing it. Many people they know they're doing it, and they still do it. Many people, they know it's haram, yet they still do it. They still do it. What is ghibat? Inshallah, if we get the chance before the end of the month, we'll talk about what the ghibat truly is, and we'll talk about that too. But when it came to the Holy Prophet, he stayed away. When it came to the Masumeen, they all stayed away from all of these types of talks. All of these types of talks. What would they do? They'd listen attentively to whatever is being said to them. Complete attention. It wasn't like their mind was wandering off somewhere else while someone else was talking to them. No. Whoever was speaking to them, they had their full attention. Whereas today, if someone's talking to you, if someone's talking to me, you know what? My eyes are looking at them, but my mind is somewhere else. And I haven't understood. Everything that they've said has just come through one ear, gone out the other. I haven't understood anything they've said. Why? Because my mind is wandering, it's somewhere else. No. The Aimah, they attentively listened to everyone that came to them. Why? Because maybe they're here to learn something about Islam. Maybe they're here because they need some help. Maybe they're here because they need some opinion from these personalities. You don't know why they're here. So listening attentively. Inshallah, we'll end our lecture off with this, and tomorrow we'll continue with the tafsir of Suratul Hujurat, inshallah, brothers and sisters. But please, once again, recite a Surah Fatiha. For the marhumeen of the sponsors of tonight's lecture, please recite a Surah Fatiha. For the marhumeen of Khan Sahib Restaurant and the Muki brothers, Imran Ali Muki and Gumel Muki, please recite a Surah Fatiha for all of their marhumeen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Bismillah ar-Rahman. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep the Imam of our time safe, make his reappearance as soon as possible. Let us, our families, and anyone that wants to sacrifice their life for him and his cause be able to sacrifice their life for him and his cause. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our sins, to forgive the sins of our family members, to forgive the sins of all the mu'mineen, mu'minat, to forgive the sins of all of those marhumeen, mu'mineen, mu'minat that do not have anyone to ask for forgiveness on their behalf. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Inshallah, brothers and sisters, I will see you all again tomorrow, continuing with the tafsir of Suratul Hujurat. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.